Russell Brand talked to Ben Shapiro.
Okay.
And Russell is just, he is so freaking likable. Like he's at another level of charisma.
Does Ben like him?
Everybody likes Russell, I think. Everybody. If you talk to him,
they're just so dissimilar.
There was a couple of things that did it from a charisma perspective that this tied into their speech. So they're talking, and every 15 to 20 minutes, Ben goes, "That's amazing, and I want to get to that. But first, do you have life insurance?" And Russell's, and because he's reading sponsorships, he reads 3 sponsorships in an hour show. And Russell's out there, you know that he's like spiritual, anti-corporate, went up on the Hugo Boss thing and talked about the whole Nazi connection, and that kind of was the end of him being a like red carpet celebrity. And he, instead of staying quiet or doing anything, he's like, "Yes, Ben, I was worried about this. What will happen to my kids and my wife, please?" And he plays with it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going like, this is annoying. This is like you shilling life insurance and then shilling ExpressVPN, telling people that it keeps them safe on the internet, which is really not true.
Yeah.
Like that's not what this VPN does. You know, and when the VPN comes out, it goes, "I was worried about my internet safety, Ben. What can I do? If only there was some way to protect myself." So he plays, and it's so likable. And I'm sitting there going like, man, I would have potentially been less likable in this moment because I probably would have just stayed quiet. But my head would be going like, VPNs don't do the things that YouTubers say that they do. They help you get British Netflix is what VPNs are good for. They just take what your IP server or your one company had, your Comcast, the data that they have, and they move it over to Express. It's still hackable. It's still not totally safe. It's still the government can subpoena them and get it. It doesn't completely encrypt anything. That's my understanding based on
Edward Snowden.
Snowden, and there's another YouTuber who does this kind of stuff. He's an English guy, Tom Scott. But Russell's awesome. And I was just like, man, what's the better way to be? And it's his philosophy that he explains is, I've got my way of doing things, but it's my way. It's not the best way. I believe in small community living, live and let live. And like, you know, he might not do ExpressVPN, but he's just like supportive. And it creates an interesting conversation that they never get to the bottom to because Russell is just so you do you, where Ben keeps trying to come back and say, what about in circumstances where your neighbors are doing something that you think is horrible, or you're doing something that they think is anti-religious? How does that work? And they didn't get there, but there's an interesting question that I don't know if you have a take on about the limits of live and let live, which is like, okay, we're live and let live. Everybody needs to do what they want. The society next door is marrying off 8-year-old girls. Do we live and let live? What do we do? Or they're killing off 8-year-old girls in some sort of Mayan sacrifice to the gods. What do you do? What are the limits of live and let live?
My first thought is that live and let live in a world where not everyone has that philosophy is just a losing strategy.
Exactly. That's another.
So it's totally fine. I'm actually not saying don't do live and let live, but a parallel, it's not exactly the same, is in Judaism, when someone tries to convert, the rabbi has to talk them out of it 3 times. And when you get through those conversations and show that you're dedicated, you convert. By contrast, Christianity goes the other route, tries to recruit. Well, one of them is much bigger than the other. And I think that the Jewish strategy is a bit like panda bears who don't breed. It's just an obvious, that's not how you grow. Now, you could try to have 12 kids per family to grow that way. But in terms of live and let live, if you are a small 100-person village and that's your philosophy, and the 100-person village next to you is, we respect strength, military power is supreme, and our goal is to conquer, they're just going to build better weapons than you and then come kill you all. It doesn't make it a morally bad or unhappy way for you to live, but you're just going to get wiped out eventually, because I don't think the world has that strategy.
This is kind of, I don't know if you're not totally familiar with it. We talked a little bit, Leo and I, when I talked from Leo from Actualize, about spiral dynamics.
I did not watch that episode.
No, didn't think you did. It's, the idea is that there isn't like, it's not that live and let live is good or bad. It is that it is a suitable and perhaps even good approach to life in a particular historical context. And that's exactly what you're saying. Like once we hash out the wars and everybody builds an army and they build a castle and one king gets a tribe and then he gets a kingdom and then he gets his head cut off and democracy comes up and then they demand better education so that they can get things, and then live and let live becomes like an enlightened, viable strategy.
And if you agree with the laws of your nation.
Because foundational.
Because if I live and let live, and the person next to me is a cannibal, I will just call the police who will enforce it for me.
Yeah.
So I can live and let live because when this person does something I think is wrong, like I don't have to.
Well, take cannibal away because that one's like, oh, that's not living and let living. Let's just take something that is we agree would be horrible, like raping small kids. You know, everyone stays alive. Like, this is a difference of values. In one thing, it is a sacred right, and things like this. I guess
what I'm saying is live and let live is actually, it's more like live and let live until a boundary is crossed. And I assume everyone has.
Who decides the boundaries is the question that Ben was pointing to Russell, that Russell.
Well, my point is everyone has their boundaries, even Russell. Russell won't live and let live forever. That's what I just am realizing as we talk through this. Is that no one actually lives and let lives. They all live and let live until their boundary is crossed.
Yeah. And
some people have their boundaries are further away, and you can have noisy parties, you can have this. But if someone were coming in, fucking with Russell's family, I do not think he would continue to live and let live.
Yes, probably correct. And I guess this is kind of like the history of the world is as we, because it only takes one bad actor, one guy to start a Holocaust to be like, well, shoot, we wanted to remain neutral, but
if you living and let living. And your neighbor says, oh, I'm going to start molesting your little daughter, Russell. Russell is not going to live and let live. And I think that's true of all of us. So it's maybe important to recognize, at least what I'm thinking is, live and let live really says, to what degree will you
tolerate differences?
Deal with someone doing something that you wish they wouldn't or that you think is immoral.
Yeah.
Because we all have a line.
What I just want to make clear is it doesn't have to be your family. Like, say that they're like, look, in your community, we won't touch you. We won't do anything. But in our community, use your imagination.
I'm saying, but maybe Russell would say, well, that's their community. And I'm saying, I'll just keep moving the line until we find your boundary. But everyone has their boundary. No one's actually.
My religion says that actually the boundary of your community moves 1 foot to the left every day. And so your community is shrinking according to my God. And we have religious freedom, and you agree upon religious freedom. So, you know, like that these conflicts will necessarily occur until, and it seems like the world is slowly moving towards like a technological base where we are intertwined via technology and economics such that it doesn't make sense for someone to defect in these friend or foe games and just try to take all of your stuff and then move along. And that allows for like more enlightened, sophisticated strategies to life to emerge.
The interesting thing to me is to hear that Russell's not really proselytizing anymore, because I feel like at one point he was very adamant about making a world-changing movement and pushing enlightenment forward, and he was kind of an evangelist. It's interesting. It sounds like now
he's revolution. Yeah.
Now he's not. He's very much. It sounds like moved more towards towards his own family, towards the people that live near him.
I think he surprised Ben at that moment. He's like, well, I think we'll disagree. And Russell's like, look, he's basically like, look, man, like, people think I'm a communist because I wrote a book called Revolution. Like, I want my local community. I want to live next to people who think the things that I think. And I want to be left alone to do what we want to do.
Was that true all the time, though? I thought at one point he was saying he thinks
way more active.
should. No, I thought there was a prescriptive should at some point.
He still has a should, but you're right, I think, to intuit that it's less forceful. He's like, look, it's not good that these corporations control so much of everything. And I think he was more vocal and active and vote or don't vote or get this candidate and don't. And I think he is much more like, how about you guys just leave me alone? And me and my...
Yeah, I wonder what made the switch.
I think that it wears you out to be an evangelist. I mean, we had the same experience with charisma and stuff and the 4-hour work week. Like, first thing we did with the 4-hour work week was not start a business. It was demand that everyone else quit their job. That was our first order of business, was just run around and pester everyone.
We found the truth. We found our new religion.
Yes, and everyone needed to do it. And eventually, we did become more like, look, this works for me, but I truly mean it's not for everybody. I get that it is not for everybody to quit their 9-to-5 and free up their time and all this. And because I've seen it go run counter to what makes people feel secure and happy to do it the way that I've done it. So I think that is a natural evolution from I found the truth, I'm an evangelist, to like, I'm just going to live this quietly in my little area because it works.
Oh, interesting. I found the truth. I try to spread the truth.
Yeah.
I quietly live the truth, and I let other people just find it on their own.
Yeah. Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.